Welcome to the Tesla Economist. Please hit the thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Why will Tesla be the lowest price mass market EV? Well, there are a plethora of reasons that are directly affected by Tesla's production costs. EVs don't need servicing like internal combustion, nor engine part replacement, due to the fact there is no engine. There is no business there for any EV company. This is mainly how legacy auto companies make money. But it's still a company, so needs to make profit, or it will go out of business. Therefore, EVs have to make profit on the cars they sell. Sure, they can upsell some things like software upgrades, charging networks, or battery exchange, but they're minimal in terms of the income. When you're selling high capital products like cars for tens of thousands of dollars, if you can get a reasonable margin, then there is plenty of profit, especially when you scale up to large numbers. For example, if BMW made just 5% gross profit per vehicle sold, and Tesla made 30%, then BMW would have to sell 6 times as many cars as Tesla to achieve the same gross profit. In addition to that, due to the extra sales required, the overall operating expenses would in turn be higher too, meaning lower net profit. As you all know, Tesla do not have to pay dealers any commission on the cars that are sold, as Tesla own all their showrooms, and their cars are not sold by independent dealerships. Now, global auto sales is actually an even bigger industry than auto manufacturing. This is the industry of all the dealers selling the cars the manufacturers have made. It's obviously larger because they're selling the cars for a higher price than they bought them off the manufacturers. If a dealer makes about 10% on selling a new car at full retail price, then that's a huge amount that Tesla are keeping to themselves. Remember, the dealer needs to sell enough cars to afford the cost of full-time salespeople and a showroom. This is not cheap. They also expect to make a profit too. And yes, they make money on the servicing side of the business as well. And sure, Tesla has showrooms too, although they're relatively smaller and many fewer models on display. But all the Tesla sales are done online, often without the customer even stepping into a showroom. And Tesla's sales to showroom ratio is significantly higher. Even if the customer does purchase whilst at the showroom, it's a significantly faster, less painful process than a traditional dealership. The main reason being, there is no negotiation. Tesla does not negotiate on price. I'm sure you've all heard about how profitable an Apple store is per squared foot. Well, I think I recall reading somewhere that a Tesla showroom was even more profitable than that. GM alone spends about $3 billion a year in advertising, and that's just in the US, and they sold about 3 million vehicles. That's about $1,000 per vehicle sold that has to get put into advertising, which is about 2 or 3% of the cost of the car. Tesla spends $0 per car in advertising, which is obviously another huge advantage in cost saving. With these extra expenses, it already makes it very difficult to compete with Tesla in cost, but it doesn't even begin to stop there. The cost of Tesla's batteries are another major competitive advantage, and that was when they were using 2170 batteries. Now with the new 4680 batteries, we're expecting a cost reduction of dollars per kilowatt hour of more than 50%. Now, in all honesty, Volkswagen are expecting to save 50% too, with their new battery design, although we don't know what price they're starting at, presumably higher than the current 2170 batteries. And Volkswagens won't be ready until perhaps 2025. And we have no idea what kind of technology Tesla would have reached by that stage. Of course, Volkswagen would not be close to the number of units Tesla are producing at that stage either. In fact, they were aiming for 240 gigawatt hours of battery by 2030. Tesla should have about that much supply next year. In other words, no one can compete with Tesla on battery cost or supply. Although NIO have been mentioning a solid-state battery that is capable of 1,000 kilometers with a 150 gigawatt hour battery, likely coming from the company Solid State Lion and not CATL. But the fact we've seen so little about this and given such little information, and it being almost too good to believe, possibly does make it just that, too hard to believe. Meanwhile, on Battery Day, Tesla literally showed us their entire production line process, manufacturing the 4680 batteries, making it easy to believe this is something that can be achieved. But even if the competitors were able to secure 4680 batteries at a similar cost to Tesla, which possibly they may be able to, as Panasonic is aiming at not selling the 4680 batteries exclusively to Tesla, but that still wouldn't give the competitors an even playing field. Again, Tesla has core competencies in the electric motor and drivetrain, along with the software. Now, if you regard Tesla as a tech company, then you might consider this as the hardware and software part of the technology, at least when it comes to improving range and performance. Obviously the FSD is just a whole other part of it. So even if the competitors can secure 4680 batteries at a similar cost, then they simply won't be able to get the same range and performance or general efficiency from the batteries. And you could also regard Tesla's 4680 batteries as part of Tesla's technology too. But by the sounds of it, they will not be exclusive to Tesla, presumably as the patent is open to anyone. But Elon says that it won't be technology Tesla compete on. Eventually, FSD will become a standard commodity in every car, and presumably battery technology will evolve so much battery packs will be affordable for every manufacturer, implying Tesla will lose a lot of its advantage there. This is most generally judged by Wright's law, made popular through ARK Invest, which basically means the more units that are sold, the more the costs reduce, implying the more batteries that are sold, or EVs, the cost of the batteries will continue to decline. This is different from Moore's law that stipulated the number of transistors on a microchip would double every 2 years. In other words, one law works over time, the other by units. Of course, this would also imply that the legacy automakers are capable of making it this far and haven't gone out of business before we reach this stage. Therefore, it's not technology that Tesla can compete on. Elon says it will be manufacturing, and that Tesla will become the best at manufacturing. And they've already begun, with revolutionary new concepts like the Gigapress using die casting to save cost and time, along with cell-to-vehicle integration to save cost and weight. And this is just the start of it. Remember, Tesla have only manufactured something like 1.2 million cars to date. Toyota and Volkswagen nearly do that every month, to put it in proportion. In other words, Tesla have only just gotten started. Of course, it would be remiss to not mention the fact that Tesla are the most vertically integrated auto company. They're the only automakers to make their own seats, for example. But the level of vertical integration doesn't stop there. They're going to get into mining too, literally extracting the minerals they require out of the ground themselves, thus keeping all the profit for themselves on the way. Of course, it's important not to forget Tesla's own FSD chip, designed specifically for their own FSD software and car. People often question why I give Tesla such high profit margins. Well, this is the reason. And right now, they're probably at around 30% already. But we haven't even seen the likes of cell-to-vehicle integration and 4680 batteries, and the impact that they'll have on margins again, not to mention more and more gigapresses to be used in the manufacturing process, again improving margins, but also reducing the required space in the factories, using hundreds less robots, and improvement in production speed. And that's just what they come up with so far. I don't know how many of you saw the original patent for the Model Y diecast, but there were multiple gigapresses working together to make the entire shell of the car just one piece. Can you imagine that? Similar to how a Matchbox car is made. Anyway, like I said, Tesla have only made just over 1 million cars so far. So imagine what other manufacturing processes they have up their sleeves by the time they reach 5 or 10 times that every year. Of course, with these margins, there's going to be a lot of profit that gets reinvested into making an even better product with more features at lower cost again, rather than being spent on advertising and dividends. And as for that 30%, I think it could more likely become 40%, particularly if you factor in FSD as part of it, when it's feature complete. Even the Chinese EVs struggle to compete on price, and let alone do it at any profit. Okay, granted, the Nissan Leaf actually is a lower cost EV, but you get about 150 miles of range on a charge, and a 0 to 60 time of over 8 seconds, and the features are basic. So no one can really compete on price, but neither range or performance or software features, and certainly not FSD. So what's left? In my last video, I mentioned a few niches where the competition have a chance in the exotic car niches, but we aren't seeing them make any effort here either, and have probably left it too late now. It's more likely Lucid becomes the Rolls-Royce of EVs, rather than Rolls-Royce themselves. But then again, that's if Lucid can make it too. Okay, so this is mainly for ICE cars, but there are already some EV competitors too. NIO just recently had their 100,000th EV come off the line. Although that's a great achievement, it gets a lot harder to scale to 1 million. The higher level of mass production you want to achieve becomes exponentially harder. If you can recall what it was like for Tesla's production hell, do you think the other CEOs would be willing to sleep on the couch in the factory to make sure they can get it right? NIO don't even own their own factories, all robots. These all eat into their margins. not to mention the lack of vertical integration when it comes to the parts. And what about some of the other Chinese EV companies? Or even Rivian? XPeng and Li Autos are also struggling to compete on price with their inferior products. Rivian makes some nice vehicles, but they're very expensive and are still far from any sort of FSD. They're also dealing with very low quantities still. Don't forget how much harder it is to scale up, especially when you are designing advanced, luxurious autos. Tesla have great designs that are also efficient for mass production. Keeping it as minimalistic as Tesla's look is also not all that easy. It just seems the more research I do and the more we hear about the competition, the less chance I can see it coming. I've been waiting for many years. Even if there was competition and Tesla didn't achieve robotaxis, their automotive business still wouldn't have any trouble achieving a $5 trillion valuation. So it doesn't even matter if there'll be some competition or not. But there isn't any, and I can't see how there will be anytime soon. Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe.